Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Apologies for not upload yesterday, but here I am. Game week 22, guys. It's just finished after Chelsea have beaten Wolves 3-1 at Stamford Bridge. But I think this is one of the weekends in the Premier League that we're going to look back in May as one of the most important game weeks for decisions in the Premier League. The top four race, the relegation battle, and the top of the league. But guys, like I said, if you're new to the channel, like I've always said, and the support you've been showing me has been unbelievable the last week or so that I've been running this channel. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another one of my videos. But let's get into the main things that I wanted to talk about. I'm not going to do too much on Liverpool and Arsenal. I'm going to give a little brief, explanation on the title race and stuff like that. Look, I did a video on Arsenal's result against Aston Villa, and I thought that was, quite embarrassing because I thought Arsenal played quite well. But when you're winning 2-0 in a game, especially when you're at home in front of your own supporters, you have to take advantage and you have to, keep that lead. I know they had a few decisions that didn't go their way. Maybe the Havertz handball, they can make a case for that, but that was clearly handball. But Arsenal need attackers, they need strikers, and I think it's what separates them from Liverpool and Manchester City, who we'll get onto later. And it's why Liverpool and Man City have won the big prizes in the last couple of years and Arsenal haven't. I think that's the separation between them. It's not to Arsenal because I think they've, have a good squad. They have some good players in there. But to really go and challenge for the top honours, you need to go out to the market and get a top nine like an Isak or a Gyökeres. I don't think he kind of suits Arsenal style of play, but somebody of the mould that can play really, really, as an out-and-out number 9, which Arsenal currently don't have. Jesus is another false 9. Havertz was signed to play as a left 8 and then eventually didn't work, so Arteta moved him to a striker. They don't really have anybody, and the only striker they had, they got rid of, and Eddie Nketiah went to Crystal Palace. But I think the league title was done for Arsenal, and I think Liverpool, after their 2-0 win at Brentford, I think puts them in an unbelievable position, not only because of the table and the points, 6 points with a game in hand, not only because of that, but I think the confidence will be in Liverpool now that they've managed to, like be under the cosh and, bombard the Brentford goal, and it's going to be another 0-0 draw. And then here they come, 2 last-minute winners from Núñez, and gives Liverpool the 3 points and puts them ahead of Arsenal, further ahead of Arsenal, should I say. But it's been a great week for Liverpool fans, including I've really enjoyed it. Arsenal dropping points and Man United losing, and I think that's what we need to look at first and foremost, because I think Manchester United are in trouble. And against Southampton, I gave them some credit because I thought they were showing some resilience in previous weeks. Drawing at Anfield, going through in the FA Cup against Arsenal, albeit on penalties, but with 10 men, they showed a lot of character, United. And then coming back from a goal down to beat Southampton 3-1, although I thought the performance was quite poor in the game, I thought Amad Diallo, rescued them. And I look at United, and they shouldn't be in this position. They shouldn't be. Now, I think they have some quality in their squad. They have a lot of quality, actually. I think they have they have good players. The players that they have, they shouldn't be where they are in the league. And maybe that's an accumulation of too many different play styles of players in one team. They've had different managers over the last couple of years. It's been a real struggle for United to be able to kind of have that balance of players, and it's obviously going to happen when you chop and change your manager every other season. They've had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they've had Louis van Gaal, Mourinho, David Moyes. If we're going further back, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I mentioned him before, Ralf Rangnick, Erik ten Hag, and now Ruben Amorim. It's a lot of managers, and a lot of those players have been through all of those. So you've got Marcus Rashford, who's finally being eased out by Ruben Amorim. He's been there since Louis van Gaal was in charge, and he obviously heard when David Moyes was at the club, but he wasn't a part of the first team. Louis van Gaal was the one that brought him in, and it's just Man United need a revamp of squad. Amorim needs to cement his identity on the squad, because I look at Brighton, a team that loses their players every single season. They have another manager for the 3rd season in a row. And they've won 3 games at Old Trafford in a row. They have 6 wins over Man United in the last 7. They've done a league double over Manchester United, and they've lost the likes of McAllister, the likes of Caicedo. They have lost Levi Colwill, but he's gone back to Chelsea. Cucurella, Estepinian missed lots through injury last season, and I look at their squad. Robert Sanchez has gone to Chelsea. They are one of the clubs that get raided every year for their players, and they still manage to pull out another player like Estepinian for Cucurella is a nice example. Baleba, Ayari stepped up this season. Mitoma's still at the club, and Sisso's not played much football, but still they've got a good squad. Gruda, it's because they scout well and they go into the market and identify players that they know will improve them, and they sell them on for a profit, and they do it again and again and again. And I'm not saying Manchester United need to follow this model, but it's working for Brighton. It might not work for United, but it's working for Brighton. And Brighton are not a club that you associate with being, in and around the positions of, in the top half, especially like I'm talking about the Champions League positions where Man United really should be. Brighton have done that and they've overachieved the last couple of years. And that's because their squad unity has been really, really good. They play a good style of football and they don't chop and change every season in terms of, they get a coach in that plays a similar style to the previous coach. And that's why it's easy, and that's why the transition from Klopp to Slot was quite similar as well, because the players understand the play style was quite similar, but it's a bit different. And it's going to be the same from De Zerbi to Hertzler, from Potter to Potter to De Zerbi to Hertzler. There's going to be some slight changes, but that's going to happen. So that is going to happen. A manager is going to implement his identity on a team. And Fabian Hertzler has had an up and down season, had a really good start. They might have fallen off, but the quality in their squad, and I thought Mint has been an unbelievable signing for them. They've got João Pedro, who's been another star for them from Brighton, signed from Watford. And I'm sure a lot of the top clubs in the Premier League and Europe are going to be looking at a player like him, the likes of Liverpool, I'm sure, Arsenal, etc., are going to be looking at someone like João Pedro. And they absolutely battered Man United. Complete and utter dominance in the game. Utter dominance. And I look at Manchester United, and that again, they go 1-0 down at home. It's now happened to Forest. It's now happened against Forest. It's happened against Bournemouth. It's happened against Newcastle. And I'm sure there's more in the Southampton just the other day. And again, Brighton, beat him 3-1. It's not just a 1-0 smash and grab. It's an absolute battering from Brighton to Man United. And I think Ruben Amorim needs to identify this problem, because if they can't, keep letting this go. And I'm sure he'll get it right at some point. But United are in trouble. They are in serious trouble now. It's not looking good for them. And I thought the kind of run and form they've been having the last couple of weeks since the Newcastle game, especially, and maybe that's going to build some momentum, but it hasn't. It's been shredded in pieces again. And Amorim came out and said this might be the worst team in Man United's history, and I don't really blame him. This is a free-for-all. He's kind of understanding where his squad lies. And I'm not saying he's got things bang on, because, of course, the manager has to take some responsibility for the team, because he sets up the team, he puts out the players, and he has a clear identity of playing. And if that's not working, you have to point fingers at not only the players, but the manager too. But I think Amorim for this season, he gets a free-for-all. But one of the managers in the Premier League, I think, that has been there for a while now, 2 years and a bit, that's under serious pressure. And some context, he's had problems with his squad, and injuries haven't helped. But then I say his play style is, allowing his players to get injured constantly, because it's becoming a recurring thing. And that's Ange Postecoglou. Now, I will never sit here and call for a manager to be sacked, because I think that's wrong. And I think Ange has done some good at Spurs. He's given them attacking football. He's given them a clear style of play. And I can appreciate a manager that sticks to his guns and sticks to his principles. But there comes a time where you have to kind of understand the situation you're in, and understand that the players that you're putting out cannot play this style. And the players that, that he wants to play the style with are out injured. So you have to make some sort of sacrifices. And that just separates, I think, Tottenham from the top clubs. And you can see they're 15th in the league for a reason. I know Van der Ven, Romero, Udogie, Vicario, etc., haven't helped their cause in terms of injuries and league form and position. But for Tottenham Hotspur to be in the position they are, it's just not good enough. They've started the new year abysmally. They lost at home to Newcastle. They've beaten Liverpool, to be fair to them. They've beaten Tamworth in the cup, but that's expected. But even that, they had to take it to extra time, losing the derby against Arsenal, and then being absolutely battered by Everton. Everton in a relegation battle. Now, some might argue Spurs are the same. Spurs could be in a very, very similar position. But you expect Tottenham to bounce back. You expect a reaction from Spurs. But they haven't showed it this season. And the Premier League table for me is they're 15th in the league. They've lost 12 games this season and they've won 7. For me, a team like Tottenham Hotspur, that is not good enough. It really isn't good enough for a team like Spurs to be in this position, because they have Son, they have Brennan Johnson, Kulusevski, Bissouma, Bentancur, I know, is out injured, but they have enough quality to be higher than what they are. So you have to then point the fingers at the coach. You have to. Because David Moyes is a new manager at Everton, and he's put on an absolute masterclass against Spurs at Goodison. You have to point the finger sometimes at the coach, not just about the players. The coach is important, and I kept the same energy for Amorim. You have to keep the same energy for Ange Postecoglou. And I promise you, if this doesn't fix for Spurs, he could be in serious trouble, Ange Postecoglou. I don't think he's going to make it to the end of the season, personally, for me, because I think he's the type of manager that's going to keep going the way he's going. I'm not saying he's stubborn, but it's not going to work. And I'm sure when Van der Ven, Romero, and Udogie and etc. come back, he's going to improve. And that's no doubt, because these players add quality to your team. But you can't keep doing this. Bergvall, I think, has been a decent little player for them. But you have to just kind of understand your situation and adapt to that. And that is what's going to, separate Spurs from being kind of in this relegation battle, you could say, and them finishing 7th or 6th in the table, which I don't think is going to happen now. But Spurs are in trouble. Spurs are in serious trouble. One team, by the way, who seemed to be out of trouble, and a team was struggling for quite a while, and they've still only lost 6 league games this season, are Manchester City. Manchester City, since the turn of the year, are back. They are back, Manchester City. And you have to look at what Guardiola's been able to implement. They started the just before the new year, they beat Leicester 2-0. And you thought, okay, Man City are getting back into the groove. Then they beat West Ham. Then they scored 8 against Salford, albeit it's a tie that you expect City to win. A 2-2 draw against Brentford was saying some signs are there of a, kind of still a crisis for Manchester City. But then they go put 6 past at Ipswich, and Ipswich has not been battered like that this season at home. And City absolutely, from minute 1 to minute 90, put them to the sword. And maybe it's a confidence thing for Manchester City. Haaland scoring goals, Foden scoring goals, De Bruyne looks back to his best, Jeremy Doku scoring goals for Manchester City now. And the signings of Mamouche, Reece, Kusanov, they're looking at Douglas Luiz, they're looking at Andrea Cambiasso of Juventus, the left back. It's building confidence in this Manchester City team. And they're in this top 4 race. They really are. They're not going to win the title, but if they put a run together, and teams like Arsenal are dropping points, Nottingham Forest, who beat Southampton, who I think will have a drop-off, Man City just need to keep going and going and going, because they have more than enough quality to be in the race for the title, let alone the top 4. But I think Guardiola's understood his position, and he's starting to, kind of getting signs that this Man City team are out of that kind of rot they were in. And no wins in 12 or whatever it was, they're starting to get, some more wins. And I think the fixtures are more favourable for them now. They still have to kind of play Liverpool at the Etihad, and they have to go away to Arsenal and play Man United again. But I think it's confidence in football. You win a game, you get confidence, and you keep going and going and going and going. That's how football works. And I think Manchester City now have that belief. Now they've got likes of Mamouche coming in, who I'm sure will improve them. Kusanov, the centre-back from Lens. Victor Reese as well. And if they get Douglas Luiz and Cambiasso, it's been an exceptional window for Manchester City. And I'm sure they're still looking to do deals. And it shows the ambition that Guardiola wants to go and succeed and win again next season, because he doesn't want another season where they don't win the league or challenge for the Champions League, which I still think they can do. Don't get me wrong, City can go and still win the Champions League. I don't think they will. But again, football's a long time and things can change really, really quickly. But I think Man City are back. That was a very, very dominant performance against Ipswich. Haaland was exceptional. Foden, like I said, was exceptional. Premier League Player of the Year, Foden he looks back to his best now, doesn't he? He scored 2 at Brentford as well. So it's good for Man City. McAtee as well, scoring again, scored against Salford City in the FA Cup last week, and he's got a goal against Ipswich. But for Ipswich, I think it's another season in the Championship for them. I think they will go down. They've shown a fight this season, and I do like their manager and his principals, Kieran McKenna. And I do think they have some decent players in that squad, especially Liam Delap, who I don't think is going to be in the next season. But it was nice to see Ipswich in the Premier League, and it's a shame that we're not going to see them next season, because I hope they don't go down, because I like them, but you have to be real about the situation that they're in. And one more team I think we need to talk about is Chelsea. Chelsea have just beaten Wolves 3-1 at Stamford Bridge. Literally, the game just finished about half an hour ago. Chelsea in a bit of a rut as well. That's their first win of 2025. And I don't think there's a better team to play when you're in a kind of a rut than Wolverhampton Wanderers, who are, and I think winless in 3 now since the new manager's come in. I think they had a kind of a decent start under the new coach. But Chelsea seem to be back to the best. And I think Chalobah, who they've recalled from Crystal Palace, had a good game. Noni Madueke getting a goal as well. Cucurella getting a goal. And Doherty for Wolves. But Wolves had chances in the game, don't get me wrong, because they have quality. Like I said, Cunha is a good player, and he can create things on his own. But again, when you have the likes of Sancho, Neto, Madueke, Jackson, you have Palmer and Dewsbury Hall started with Caicedo as well in the pivot. Eventually, that quality will come through. And I think Chelsea are still in this top four race. I think they go above Manchester City now. City went fourth after they beat Ipswich, and Chelsea obviously played the Monday game. Chelsea are back in the race for the top four, and it's crazy to think that only a couple of weeks ago that they were 2 points behind Liverpool, and now they're 13 points at the top of the league. And it's like I say, football can change very, very quickly. It's a long time, but things can change very, very fast. I think Chelsea needed that victory because they were in a bit of a rut. I think Maresca, some of the fans were putting some pressure on him. And when you're at a club like Chelsea, you have to win. And we've seen how ruthless this board have been with the likes of Pochettino and Graham Potter and Thomas Tuchel. And if Maresca doesn't get the results and doesn't get the top four with the squad that he has, I think he could have been in trouble as well. Yeah, they had a very, very good start to the season, Chelsea, and you saw that they were building consistency and their patterns of play are really, really good, and they have a good intensity about them, and they play invert in some games, not outward. Outward is not a word. Invert in their fullbacks at times. You know, I'm playing high and wide with Cucurella and James, who've come back. Gusto is another player who I think has had a decent season for Chelsea, but they have a good squad, and I think that's what gets them through games like this. When you're playing against low blocks, when you're playing against teams that are trying to hit you on a transition, when you've got transition monsters like Madueke, Sancho, Pedro Neto, and Jackson, you're going to score goals, and you've got the quality of Cole Palmer, who's been on and off this season. He's still got 13, 14 Premier League goals, and it just shows the quality that Chelsea have in their squad. And the likes of João Felix not even involved, Gui not even involved as well. So I think Chelsea are on a right path. I think this season is kind of a transition season for them anyway. And I think we'll see the best of them next season. But it was a game week where I think the race for the Champions League spots have come alive. The title race has been decided, and I think we kind of know who's going down. Some teams in crisis, some teams out of crisis. Still got a long way to go, but I think things are becoming more and more clearer. Liverpool champions, Man City in the top four, Tottenham relegation. Guess we'll find out in May. Thank you guys for watching, and as ever, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and hit the bell notification, because these videos are going to be happening on a longer basis, and are going to be happening a lot more. Game week 22, guys, was not too bad. Take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.